city struggle. From gun violence and poverty to the fading lifelines of arts and sports that once gave our youth hope. It's more than a play, it's a movement. Mop and Bucket Blues, cleaning up the blues one story at a time. For tickets and more information, visit etacreativearts.org.
Hey, it's Brandon, Mr. Finance, the Millionaire Maker. Do you have good credit but just can't seem to make money stretch the way you need it to? Or you have some money but your credit is shaky? If an extra $3,000 a month could help you not worry about paying bills, start a business, retire with enough income to support your desired lifestyle, or create generational wealth for your family, tune in to the Brandon, Mr. Finance, the Millionaire Maker show on Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. with host Cleopatra Draper, and hear more from me on Saturdays at 2 p.m. Go in. Trust and believe the lottery is not the only way to become a millionaire. For your one-on-one appointments, visit BrandonMrFinance.com.
Black men face some of the greatest barriers to healthcare, from access and trust to prevention and treatment. This Saturday at 1 p.m. on a Community Health Focus Hour, host Dr. Edwin McDonald will be joined by leaders from community organizations to break down the challenges and the solutions that can help Black men take control of their health. Our health is the most valuable thing we have. Listen on WVON or Facebook Live, the Community Health Focus Hour, Saturdays at 1 p.m., powered by the Urban Health Initiative of U Chicago Medicine at the forefront.
The movement for repair is growing, from city halls to parliaments and around the world, from Chicago to Cape Town, from Evanston to the UN. I'm Robin Ruth Simmons.
And I'm Cam Howard. Together we're bringing you Reparations Now, where we talk power, policy, and progress, local, national, and international.
It's about justice.
It's about repair. It's about time.
Reparations now, because justice cannot wait.
Reparations Now, Saturdays at 4 p.m., only on WVON 1690.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40, and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
It's the Wake Up Show with the Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce on Chicago's essential storyteller, WVON.
Welcome to the Wake Up Show, Chicago.
Rise and shine. It's the Wake Up Show, where every sunrise is a call to action. Powered by the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, we are the champions of change, advocating for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the world of corporate and government contracting. It's not just a show, it's a movement. So get ready for another dynamic journey as we wake up the world to a new era of opportunities and empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, President Larry Ivory.
Good morning, Chicago. Good morning. I hear you guys out there rustling through your fallen leaves. Yes, that's right. It's a little chilly outside. Anyway, good morning and welcome to the Wake Up Show Chicago, powered by the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce and sponsored by Wind Creek Casino, Wind Creek Chicago Southland. Each and every Saturday morning at 9 a.m., we're coming to you live right here on WVON 1690. And I don't come here live by myself, Miss LaDonna Raeh. That's right. That's what they call me. But I come alongside with our El Capitan, Mr., or should I say, as I always correct myself, with Dr. Larry Ivory. Good morning, Dr. Ivory.
Good morning, the wonderful LaDonna Raeh. Another Saturday morning that we get a chance to bring light and great conversation and actionable things that will help Black business and Black people. So we're excited again for another day of opportunity to share.
You know, we love helping Black people, and today we're going to be talking about, are we making progress? But before we get to that, we want to introduce our updates in Washington coming straight from Phoenix Strategies, and that is none other than Mr. Nigel Stevens. Good morning.
Morning, and thank you very much for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to join the Wake Up Show.
Thank you very much. So, what's going on in Washington? All we hear is the government shutdown, no food stamps. It's all kinds of things that is just exploding. But I know you're going to give us the real deal.
Well, it is it's a tale of two cities, LaDonna. It is the best of times, it's the worst of times, and unfortunately, a lot of that worst of times is directly affecting those of you outside of Washington D.C. Before I get started, I do want to acknowledge a recent announcement that Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker of the House, has decided to retire, not to run for re-election in 2026. And I just want to make sure that we give her her due and appreciation and acknowledgement, not only as a leader for her party, and we're going to talk about that as her being Speaker of the House, but as probably the most, not probably, as the most effective Speaker of the House of Representatives in my entire lifetime. And I go back to the days of Tip O'Neill out of Massachusetts, and even, when we balanced the budget in the 90s. But when she took over, the legislation that was passed, the effectiveness of the House of Representatives, the ability to pass bipartisan legislation, to work across the island, come to solutions, and quite honestly, even be tough and dig her heels in and defend working class people and voters of this nation, and ensure we get things like the Affordable Care Act that is transforming the lives of people that we're still fighting over now, which is why we're having a shutdown.
Even without you saying it, I kind of want to ask you, how do you feel about her retirement?
She is going to be greatly missed. We need her strength. We need her intellectual capacity, her strategic vision, right? She is a political chess player of the highest standards, the best of the best, right? And we need more people who are institutionalists who learn how to get things done, not just, screaming into a wind tunnel or trying to go through the politics side of things. She not only understood the politics and how to move pieces on the chessboard, she understood the policies themselves, and even more so, the procedure, how to get things done in the House of Representatives, how to negotiate with presidents and leaders of other countries, how to negotiate and follow the rules of the House of, and understand the rules of the House of Representatives in order to get things done. And that's what I think is a little bit lacking right now in our current congressional environment. A little bit of the grace, all right, a little bit of grace to be able to be strong and defend your position, but also be able to negotiate and give the other side a half a loaf in order to continue negotiations in the future.
Well, I got my fingers crossed for her contenders. I tell you that.
Absolutely. Well, look, we've got some good leadership in the House of Representatives right now with Hakeem Jeffries, but there's big shoes to fill with Nancy Pelosi. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Nancy Pelosi. If you can hear the sound of our voices, we really appreciate all that you've done in your 40 years of service as in Congress. I mean, we thank you. All right, Nigel, it is that time. Oh, that was bittersweet. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's give Nigel a little more time, because I think I want to hear more about what he sees happening from what's going on Capitol Hill, what his ideals or at least thoughts are, since he's on the ground in D.C., in terms of how do we get to a point where this shutdown becomes, because I think there's a lot of pressure being brought on both sides. When American people are hurting, somebody has to listen. And it's a threshold of pain, and the numbers that we're seeing affecting Republicans as well as Democrats to do something, or is this just the will of one man who wants to get what he wants to get, and everyone's going to follow suit? So just give us some perspective on that, if you wouldn't mind.
So thanks, Larry. So that's extremely important, because the pain is real. We are seeing things. I live in Maryland. I can tell you, just driving down the street on a Saturday, the lines outside of folks distributing food is just immense. I mean, lines as far as the eye can see. That's what's happening right now in the United States. That's what's coming out of Washington. Just Friday, there was the Supreme Court intervened and had a temporary block because the administration appealed a decision by a lower court that said they had to give SNAP benefits using the Reserve SNAP Benefits Fund. Let me say that again. So the Department of Agriculture has a fund that is used as a reserve fund in case of a shutdown to pay for SNAP benefits that they have decided not to use. And that's about $4 billion of funding for food assistance for needy people. They've decided not to do that. A court said you must spend some of that money, and they appealed it. And so now there's a temporary stay on that, making sure that giving them the power to not spend that money, not to give food resources. Now, what that does, that puts it on the governors. A lot of governors, and even I had a conversation with Mayor Muriel Bowser yesterday in Washington, D.C. They are intervening and using their own state and city funds in order to continue providing SNAP benefits to their residents so people can buy food. Mm-hmm. And the administration has threatened to not reimburse them for spending that money when the government does reopen and they are allowed access to those funds. So really, the pain is the point. The pain is a pressure point that they're trying to press, but that pain is being inflicted on the American people in order to make it more difficult for them just to go and buy food in the grocery stores. And where's that coming? That's getting upon a layer upon layer upon layer. Something you guys aren't seeing because the government shut down. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is not releasing unemployment numbers. They're not releasing information to the public because the government shut down, right? But what have we seen recently? Just in the month of August, corporate America, the U.S. companies announced 86,000 job cuts just in the month of August. And then since August, you've seen Amazon in October announce 30,000 reductions. ConocoPhillips announced 3,000. Paramount, 2,000. General Motors, 1,750. UPS, 48,000 layoffs. That's since October, right? That's in addition to the statistics that you guys know very well of the 300,000 Black women who lost their jobs since January.
And don't forget the 100,000 Black men.
Yeah, and an additional 100,000. Right? So you're talking hundreds of thousands of people who are unemployed, and we saw numbers come out that showed that what they call the long-term unemployed. So if you've been unemployed for a certain amount of time, the highest growing number of long-term unemployed people are recent college graduates. That's for the first time in our history that even young people are having a difficult time. And the reality on the ground is people are struggling. And you saw that manifest itself on Tuesday. We talk about this. We try to make sure we're not playing this Democrat-Republican game. We focus on what's happening in the minority business community and what we can do to help the economic growth and the opportunities of our businesses. But you saw a turnout in Virginia, in Mississippi. Mississippi flipped 2 Senate seats and a House seat towards the Democrats on Tuesday. You saw additional 14 seats picked up by Democrats in Virginia. You saw Abigail Spanberger win by double digits, right? You saw Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, that even the week before we were projecting it to be an extremely close race if she was going to even pull it out, and she ended up winning that election.
So Nigel, let me pause you there for a moment with great data. But I would think that from a political point of view, is that if these elections are, came out and the numbers you stated is absolutely correct, it would seem like that would put a significant amount of pressure on Republicans to perhaps understand that some of their policies that they're putting out here is not very well received when you take a look at approval ratings and other indicators and polls and everything else. I'm hoping that it can only get so bad until people begin to devour themselves and people begin to break off from leadership because so many of their own constituents are being hurt by what's going on. And I think it's always been that the kind of conversations I listen to, whether it be the Speaker of the House on the Republican or Democratic side, each party's trying to blame the other. And I think the data points out that most Americans see the Republicans as the reason for the shutdown for some obvious reasons. But people are still trying to spin the narrative and to make to do the blame game on each other, which is again a part of politics. But the people are the ones who suffer from all of the political games that happen. There used to be time you had, Republican leadership, whether it be Mitt Romney or you had, I can't think of his name now. He passed away, and
John McCain.
John McCain, that were people who could talk to the other side and come to some consensus. We don't seem to have that type of leadership on the Republican side right now, which is really interesting. I'm still trying to grapple with how we got here, and more importantly, how do we sustain ourselves, and how do we get America back on track again?
Well, Larry, you bring up a good point. Look, the fact is that Republicans and Democrats, rank and file, that are representing their constituents around the country are feeling the pressure, are feeling the pain. They are hearing from their constituents that are struggling. You even saw Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is by no means a moderate anything. Right? She is as MAGA and as extreme on the right as you could possibly get. Even she is now publicly talking about the impact on her constituents and even on her own family members, right? The cost of her rent, the cost of food going up, the real impact people are having, the loss of jobs around in private sector jobs, public sector jobs, all of that is all creating a confluence of issues, an intersection of issues that is hurting her constituents. She's not unique. She's just one of the few people on the Republican side that's willing to come out and say it. Right? Mm-hmm. They are dealing with an audience of one, but they are feeling the pain. Look, they have constituents. They've got to go to Kroger's. They've got to go to the Winn-Dixie. They've got to go to the Publix, and they can get their groceries, and they see people, their own people in their communities, their neighbors, their people in their church struggling to make it. And so that's the reality. But again, you have an audience of one on the Republican side. And then, with this shutdown, you've got Democrats, they identified an issue that is working for them in healthcare. But the facts are this. Was this additional benefit intended to be temporary during COVID? Right? Yes. However, the impact on these exchanges, and we need to talk about who this really affects, the impact on these exchanges, the significant increase, you're talking thousands of dollars of increase in healthcare premiums just to have healthcare. Right? That's not your healthcare cost. That's just your premiums. Thousands of dollars is unaffordable to most Americans. And we need to also talk about who this is going to affect on these exchanges. When I started my business, my family was on the health exchange in the state of Maryland because that's where we go, because I'm a sole proprietor. I'm an entrepreneur. That's who's really being affected by this, because I'm not on Medicaid. I'm not old enough to have Medicare. So those government assistance programs are not going to affect. So the people who are getting onto these exchanges, the business owners, your business owners, Larry, in your communities that get on the healthcare to offer health insurance for themselves, their families, and even their employees, that's who's going to see significant premium increases. And imagine the impact on companies that have small margins already. Right? The folks that own the barbershop, the folks that own the tow truck company, the folks that own, the bodegas and the laundromats, they don't have the ability to pay an additional $10, $15, $20, $30,000 a year for their healthcare premiums just to have the access to health insurance. Right? So that's who's being affected. And then there's one last piece, the policies that are being driven are also affecting those same businesses. So it's not just a hit from one side, it's a hit from all sides. If you look at the challenges that even the disadvantaged DBE and ACDBE programs are facing right now with the attacks on DEI and the attacks on supplier diversity, contracts being pulled, contracts being denied, folks having to reapply to the DBE program. These are companies, these are American businesses that are doing good work in construction, in rail, in any of the highways, construction projects, bridges and roads. These are job creators that are now being told that they have to reapply to the DBE program or the ACDBE program, and now cannot include any discrimination based on race or gender as their justification for qualifying for advantage. So now you've got to come back and rewrite a narrative, take time away from your business to rewrite a narrative to explain why you've been disadvantaged, but you can't talk about race and you can't talk about gender. And you
now, Nigel, I was under the impression you can mention it, but you can't lead with it. Am I saying that right?
Right. That's a better way of saying it, right?
Yeah.
It can't be the reason.
It can't be the reason. Yeah, absolutely.
Even though for many people, it is the reason.
Yeah, right.
So it's the illogical juxtaposition there. But imagine that. Plus, you've got to make payroll. Plus, you've got to pay for health insurance. Plus, you're trying, right? All of those stresses are all being put on the shoulders of American business owners, of the small business owners, the minority business owners that are the pillars and the structure that supports our communities. And that's what the real challenge is. That's the real and common everyday people. Main Street, everyone looks at Wall Street as the economic analysis. Well, Main Street is having a really hard time right now, and it is a direct result of the policies that are coming from Washington, D.C.
Nigel and LaDonna, is that, and I may get off the beaten path just for a moment, but I'm trying to make a point, is that the audacity of Caucasian people sometimes amazes me, whether it be Democrat or Republicans, is that, I serve on a lot of different boards, school boards, housing authority boards, and I try to, if I'm on a board, I'm trying to get something done that's positive, try to make something positive happen. And recently there was a conversation on the school board that pointed out one of our Caucasian leadership on the school board mentioned the fact that because African Americans, have a number of us who control the school board, and the comment was that she knocked on the doors in my neighborhood and every place else, and it simply pointed out to the fact that Black people, the group who's trying to get this person in, are just giving all the contracts to their friends. And the only reason I make this point because I think it's so ridiculous. It's like,
wait, I'm sorry. You said what friends? Who's trying to get their friends in?
They were saying that I was, or the number of Blacks on the school board was trying to get more giving contracts to their friends, which was not correct anyway. But here's the point I'm trying to get to. They had 120 years of doing for their friends,
family, nephews.
Black people do one thing, a very small smidgen. It's all of a sudden, it's something inherently wrong. They did something wrong, and the fact of the matter is that none of our friends got contracts. But it's always amazing to me, Nigel, is the lack of people understanding that even when Black people get some fairness and equity, they've had hundreds and hundreds of years of no equity and no fairness. And when we have the power to do something that empowers our own communities, we must operate and act with that without regret or remorse. We have to be able to push the agenda to create more opportunities locally in our own communities.
Well, look, Larry, I do want to address that because I am one who is extremely frustrated with the false narrative of division, right? The race division of, the Black jobs, the race division of, the immigrant Hispanics are coming to take the jobs, the division that creates some false narrative that a white small business owner that's struggling to make payroll is any different than a Black small business owner that's struggling to make payroll. What we're saying that is the tool that has been used since the end of slavery to create division between people who are all in the same economic class trying to work hard and be innovative, right? That's
divide and conquer.
It's a division, right? So there are folks who are leveraging that type of divisiveness in order to maintain their economic status.
Sure.
So the idea, first of all, look, there are policies and procedures in place. This is the conversation around merit. And the folks who are saying, oh, this has got to be based on merit without being able to define what it is. There are specific rules and procedures when it comes to procurement, particularly in the federal and state and local public sector space. It is strict. It is transparent. It is enforced. If you break the rules, you go to jail. I've seen people go to jail for trying to funnel contracts in ways and so forth. You can Google it. You can see reports all the time. Contracting officer in this department or that department did something untoward, and they are in jail. This is not a game. This is not, oh, I'm just going to hand something over to my friends. Okay.
Right.
The folks, these programs are not in place, never have been, never been effective in allowing people to funnel contracts. What it does, it allows companies that were never available or never afforded access to be able to compete. It gives them an opportunity to compete in a marketplace. Now, what does that do? It creates more competition, more providers, so they can offer better prices, more innovation, more job creation, all of the benefits that as a prime contractor, as a corporate contractor with a supply chain of their own, or as a government entity that you should want. You want more companies in your supply chain to compete so you can choose which one is the better one. You never go with somebody who's going to come and do work on your house and you just go with the first person. No, you go and you get estimates from a number of different ones and you decide which one you're going to use based on quality of service and price. But what we're seeing right now is not just what we're hearing about the DBE and ACDBE, because that affects many of the Black-owned and Hispanic-owned businesses. You hear about the 8A program challenges, but what you're not hearing about is the ongoing consolidation of contracts, of all contracts.
Yes.
At the federal level.
Yeah.
The reduction in the number of available small business contracts, the number of available contracts for women-owned business procurement, right? The limited number of contracts, as we keep saying, yeah, we're going to do more for veterans. That environment, that entire population of contracts is shrinking. So it's not just, do not fall into the trap of this race discussion. This is about American competitiveness in a global marketplace. We talk about this on the show all the time. If we do not actively encourage what makes America special is the ability for somebody with an innovative idea to start something new, grow it, build it, get financing, get partners, grow it, maybe even take it to be a public company or sell it to another public company that can now commercialize it and expand it and grow it and bring it to marketplace on a real scale and turn it into a global powerhouse. That ecosystem must be maintained if we're going to compete.
Absolutely. Hey, Nigel, we have a couple callers that we want to take here while we still have you on the air with us. And I want to come back at some point in time within our conversation to talk about what we talk. It's all about economics. But go ahead, LaDonna. I think we got a caller.
Brother Brown, you're live on the Wake Up Show Chicago. Guys, I just want to remind you that you can call in 773-591-1690. We want to hear from you. And of course, you can go to Facebook and put your comments in the chat and share the show. Hey, Brother Brown.
What I wanted to say is what that analogy that he just made, I come from a family of business owners and professors. And one of the things about redlining by the banks and insurance company, being bonded and licensed, how long they take to pay you, 60 days out, 90 days out, is a systematic way of taking you out of business. Saying that you're comparing a white dude who has payroll problems with a black man who can't give you a loan to even start a company to get a payroll. That is not even the same. So what I want to say is this commonality that we always push, that this America, remember, who used to be here for anybody said it's America over in the future? It was based off of killing, plundering, and murdering. So now in the business sense, when they took everybody out of here and put all the businesses in China so they didn't have to pay union wage, one of the biggest things I see now, all of the presidents that come in always trying to make an agreement with China. What are we producing in America? Because 38% of the cars are made somewhere else. And then if the unions don't fight for a wage, you really don't have no bread. So I'm going to say this to that person who made that analogy. Do better research, because it's not that brush that you are portraying. Everybody don't get the same opportunity, and it's ingrained. I don't know why somebody white would think I can't be in a carpenter union, I can't be in an electrician union, I can't be sheet metal workers, because you're traditionally Italian and the mob. So let's be real sometime about these analogies and deal with the truth. God bless.
All right. We're going to be real all the time. Nigel, please respond.
Yeah, let me address that. So, in no way was I trying to say that everything is equal or even equitable at this time. Absolutely not. But there are things that are commonalities between business owners that we need to focus on that also would disproportionately impact minority business owners that have been disproportionately impacted. Let me give an example. Recently in the state of Maryland, we were able to change the law with regards to our procurement payment systems in order to get small businesses to be paid on a net 15 scale instead of a net 30. What does that mean? If you do your work and you submit your invoices to the state of Maryland, you had to wait 30 days to get paid. Well, the smaller businesses don't have the ability to float the government for that long a period of time. They need their money as soon as they get done, and they can pay their people and they can keep moving to the next project.
You said 30 days?
No, they moved it to 15.
I'm just saying that 30 days is,
It's gold for us.
That's pretty impressive. To go to 15 is just
we're now at net incredible. 15, Larry. We're at net 15, right?
Well, we're at about 30 months here in Illinois.
That's a problem.
That
is an infrastructure problem that creates a disproportionate impact and a negative impact on the smaller, more diverse firms. If you're a large firm, you can float for that long. You're fine. You've got other major income streams and so forth. So that's not a race thing. That's not a gender thing. But that is something that can be changed in procurement policy that can allow for those businesses that are innovative, great business, doing great work on the roads and bridges and all that kind of stuff to get paid for their work and get paid in a timely fashion. And that will have a much better impact on those businesses that don't have the resources to be able to float the government. And
Nigel,
technology exists to make these payments in a very quick, timely fashion. So that there's no reason why the technology cannot transfer your payment once approved by, everything's been done, checked off on the quality of the work, checked off, everything's done. You can hit a button and make things happen very quickly now in new technology. So there are ways of doing things and addressing the inherent infrastructure challenges that are created that create a negative impact on smaller businesses.
Nigel, I'm gonna weigh in real quick on a couple things here, because normally you're only on for a few moments, but I think we're gonna keep you on much longer. As long as you
is that okay, Nigel? I want to ask him, Larry.
That's fine. I'm on the wake up show, LaDonna. I'm on the wake up show.
Right.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay. So let me ask this. We're going to pivot because you just mentioned Maryland, which means that you've heard the comment, all politics are local. And let me just kind of point out where the chamber's at. The chamber has, the ultimate responsibility to be a watchdog and to take a look at policies that we think adversely impacts us, whether it be Democrats or Republicans. Our goal and objective, our mission as an organization is to economically empower and sustain the African American community through entrepreneurship and capitalistic activity via interaction with our national chamber throughout the Black diaspora. In a nutshell, we strengthen Black businesses. That's our role. When we take a look at things like the Department of Corrections, who may have a $2 billion budget, Nigel, and a $2 billion budget, but they may be spending $1.8 million in spend, which is deplorable because we represent maybe 65% of the prison population. What the chamber continues to try to do is to bring light to the subject. It's like when you pointed out to me that African Americans on the federal contracting side do 1.35%, and Hispanics do a little bit better at 1.85%. And when I was on Capitol Hill having a conversation, I pointed that out. And I said, well, how do you make the argument of equal protection under the law? But the data points to us. So we have to fight on every front, whether that be Capitol Hill, and whether it be local in terms of our participation. And what I see consistently is that we are not participating where our dollars help create the opportunity. And we have to play this game better to make sure that we have more policies that protects the interests of minority business with the emphasis of black business, because I'm not representing all minority. I mean, I'm representing black business. That's my role. And I know the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce represent. And sometimes we come together because we have common objectives and common issues. And sometimes we work in different, different silos. Pardon me. I'm trying to evaluate when I take a look at all the money that the state spends and the lack thereof of our participation. And and LaDonna knows we've had some things in dealing with our BEP issue. I'm gonna let LaDonna kind of walk you through what she's observed, and I want to get your interpretation, at least from your perspective. And I want to talk about the games that they play because as soon as we start making progress, they have a game plan to try to disrupt progress, whether it be to divide and conquer us, whether it be to misrepresent the facts, whatever they need to do, it seems to be very systematic in terms of trying to minimize our impact um, in terms of equity and fairness. So I'll pause, pass it back to you, LaDonna, and we're going to move right into our conversation.
Absolutely. So, and we do have a caller, Steve, on the line. I'm sure he wants to weigh in on this. And I don't want people to think that because of the delayed payments that they shouldn't even try. That's another thing. We tend to blow the bullhorn on the negative aspects of participating in these contracts, and then we might we that might discourage someone from actually trying to participate. Now, I'm not saying it does, but I just want to make sure that we understand that you should still put a dog in the fight. Nigel, recently, the BEP, I witnessed a conversation that took place. It was a conference call that took place talking about the updated concerns about how the BEP certification is being recognized as having an issue. This issue has been going on for over a year. This started in July of 2024, where prior to that period, there was a system that the original system, where if you were certified as a BEP business, your certification spoke to all three entity or all three agency systems. Okay, so you're certified not only in the main system, but you're certified across the board. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Now,
Yes.
they have since awarded a contract to I think it's I think it's no Vivian USA, where they have taken on the task of upgrading the system. And I have an IT background, so I'm thinking this through, and as I'm listening, it doesn't make sense to me. But they have upgraded their system, and they've upgraded it to where it's supposed to be better. But a year later, a year and a half later, or over a year, I don't want to stretch it, the discussion was that now that you are on the new system, that you are not automatically talking to the other systems across the board. There has to be some um manual interruptions so that you can be considered across the board. And because of that, it has affected and impacted a lot of small businesses that may not be aware of this. So letters have gone out as part of the Commission on Equity and Inclusion ongoing commitment. Their ongoing commitment letter went out saying that the BEP and Veterans Business Program, they have recently updated their supplier diversity management portal. Now, their records may indicate that you have a BEP or VBP recognition certification, and your recognition certification has expired or will expire soon. Okay, that's one thing. But the BEP recognition certifications are to be re enrolled, and they may not talk or not, they won't talk to the other systems across the board. this will make a major impact on those businesses that were previously recognized on all three fronts.
And let
That,
me add to that,
yeah,
Donna, is that one of the things, it also lowers the goal setting
yeah,
because goal setting is based upon certified BEP firms. So it's a legitimate question that the chamber ought to weigh in on to find out when they're going to correct it, how they're going to fix it, how did we create the problem that has been dealt with over hasn't been dealt with at least 1 year and 4 months. You have a I don't want people to assume that CEI has all the responsibility or BEP because there's a number of people who are in the mix, whether it be the CPO, Ellen Daly, and others who play a significant role in terms of how procurement is done. But our goal has always been, as a chamber, is that if there's a problem, it's our job to speak to the problem and then ask them to fix the problem and correct it to make sure that Black businesses are not harmed by whatever they've done. And someone needs to be held accountable for it.
right.
Makes sense, right?
So,
Makes sense to me.
Larry and LaDonna, do you see what I mean now when I say that there are non-race or gender or veteran or conscious issues that are infrastructure issues that disproportionately affect smaller firms like
Yes.
this, right? So in state of Maryland, we actually did the opposite. Okay, we recently passed and the governor signed a Procurement Reform Act, which actually requires now the consolidation of your certification applications and so forth. So you would go online and you put all your information in once, and then it then talks to all the systems.
Yeah,
And
well, who did that system? Because that's who we need on this end in Illinois.
transparency and accountability.
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel. I'm sorry. We only have 10 minutes, guys, but I'm getting frustrated with
It doesn't make sense.
the games that are being played. Yeah.
So LaDonna, if you are a small business, in our state we call it the Small Business Reserve, right?
Mhm.
So you register as a small business, but if you also want to register for the MBE, the Minority Business Enterprise Program, you put that information in. It doesn't. You're not a different company. You're not a different person to have
Right.
to run and do the application again. If you're also a veteran owned, if you're a military veteran, why are you now filling out yet another application, right? Why can't you put all of that information in once and let the system organize it, and then you can now apply, and then you have all of your certifications applicable to your one company. So then when you bid on something, they already acknowledge where you fit into the system, right?
But
That's
that makes sense.
Of course it does. And it's more efficient, it's more effective, it's more transparent. It's, you're from a technology background, so am I. It's the CX, it's the customer experience, right?
Mhm.
It's the citizen engagement. It's how we go onto a website. Does it work for us? Are we actually being served by the technology? When we leave, are our questions answered? Are these things? That's what the approach must be. That's just government management.
In addition to that, I looked up the number of small businesses in Maryland. By the way, I'm moving to Maryland, Larry, just so you know. Okay.
Well,
um,
we would welcome you and all other business owners. Come on in. Maryland's open for business.
Watch out, Illinois.
Hey,
But
well,
there are about
let me
630.
be
I know.
fair.
Larry.
I
LaDonna,
live in
said Larry.
Illinois. And let me just say that Illinois is a great state. The goal that we have and that people try to spin is that when we bring up an issue that hurts us, people will try to spin, and you'll find different movements that happen within our community where they will create this narrative that the chamber is working with a conservative group who's trying to undermine every program that you're having, and they create this narrative out there in the community because it's really about disarming you and protecting those who made the mistakes from the very beginning. And so it's always this game. We anticipate, as I tell my team members, we anticipate that when we make a move to correct something, and our genuineness is to make something right that was wrong,
Mhm.
and to work with the system so that we do have the best state, that we can be the light that sits on the hill. But I recognize out of my experience of time that even when we're doing the right things for the right reasons, people will try to spin it and create division among ourselves. And before you know it, you got me fighting against my friend. You got someone else over here because people think that someone's being. It's such an incredible game that they play to keep us at bay so that we don't become as effective. And that's why blacks have not made as much progress because we allowed ourselves to be pitted against each other and we don't understand the game that's being played.
I love the way you said that. I'm going to go ahead and get to our caller because we're nearing our end here. And also, I want to address something about Maryland versus Illinois. Here we go. Hey, Steve, welcome to the Wake Up Show. Real quick, what you got for us?
Yes, I wanted to make 2 points. One, in terms of a previous caller who raised the issue of China, part of that dynamic is the fact that we no longer are a society that wants to do a lot of these jobs. There aren't lines of people around the corner waiting to get the job making sweat socks and T-shirts in America. So we need to recognize that. I mean, bring back jobs for whom? The people who don't want them here. So that's one. And secondly, you're absolutely correct with regard to this being as much of a class issue as anything else. 99% of white business owners don't qualify for any of these large contracts also because they don't have the capital reserves. They don't have the lines of credit. They don't have the capacity to get in on those kinds of contracts. It's a small group of people. And unfortunately, the way that the structure works is that, as the guest pointed out, you have to wait a long time to get paid when you work with the government in many cases. Whereas in the private sector, if I don't pay somebody very quickly, next time when I want to hire them, they might not be so willing to work for me. But government doesn't really care because it's not their money, the people who are administering the payment.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks, Steve. If any feedback, guys, 5 minutes.
That's the reality where we are. These contracts are getting larger and more businesses, regardless of who the small business owner is, what they look like, whatever their demographic is, can't compete for them.
Yeah,
and so
but still, can't you come together? Can't you come together? You be the prime and you get several subs and now you can compete. That's not even...
LaDonna, we need a whole show on that. We need a whole show on strategic partnerships, joint ventures, right?
Absolutely.
Companies need to come together not only with regards to scalability, right? So if there's a trucking contract that needs 100 trucks and you only have 20, go find some other businesses that can get you 200, right? But there's also the capacity level, right? Where are the additional talents? Where are the additional niche skills that you can bring another company in? So if this is a facilities management contract instead of an HVAC contract, and you only do HVAC, well, then find a company that does landscaping. Find another.
I got to make this point. I got to cut you off real quick, but I got to make this point. It's important to talk about this. Healthcare is one of the biggest spends that we have. I mean, it's what we're debating right now in reference to the shutdown, the healthcare cost. And we've been having Dr. Sterling, who's been, just an iconic figure across the globe in terms of preventive care.
Yes.
And we've worked hard, even when we have Black leadership at the highest of levels, we can't seem to get people to understand that why not give a guy a chance that has a global experience that does what he does, and to be able to get the caucus to really understand that, over the billions and billions and billions of dollars we spent over the 50 years, as an example, that we really haven't participated. And if you have a company like Simcoe Solutions, I don't think it's that difficult to give a world-class organization an opportunity to do something that helps them participate, that will help Black business participate, and that will have better healthcare outcomes for our own people. And it seems like there's a concentrated effort to make sure that we get nothing real significant, because if you get more money, because you and I was talking earlier about slavery is about money, it was about economics. And if we have more economics and more money, we can do more things for ourselves. We can give more money to charities and all the other factors. Weigh in on that from your perspective.
So
1 minute. Yeah.
You look, I want to let's get to the dollars, right? Let's get away from all the divisiveness and the vision and the intention to keep us divided amongst. Let's get to the economic folks. Where are your taxpayer dollars going? I have had numerous conversations with Dr. Sterling, and he's got, look, the numbers are the numbers. If you keep people out of the emergency rooms, you can save the state of Illinois billions of dollars every single year. if you keep people healthier on the front end and don't have comorbidity issues and urgent care and emergency and people getting admitted to hospitals versus going to a clinic or seeing a doctor on a regular basis, that is how you're going to save and bend the cost curve, not only to save money in healthcare, but those are taxpayer dollars. The working folks need to start demanding accountability for where their taxpayer dollars are going. And are they being spent effectively?
All right. Well, you know what? That's the best way to end this show today. Someone did type in and say, "What is BEP?" I want to explain that real quick, and we got to go. Business Enterprise Council was developed to help implement, monitor, and enforce the goals of the business enterprise for minorities, women, and persons with disabilities. That's what BEP is. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening and witnessing, as we say Monday through Thursday on the afternoon show, the Wake Up Show Chicago, right here each and every Saturday. Nigel, we want to thank you for weighing in with us. I know I said 5 minutes, but you gave us 55 minutes, and I really appreciate you for breaking all of this down as usual.
Thank you for having me, LaDonna. Thank you for having me, Dr. Ivory. I really appreciate being on the Wake Up Show. And thank you to all the listeners. Anything I can do to be helpful, you know where to call me.
All right, for sure. Well, we got work to do, guys. That's it for us. We're going to get out of here and get you guys to Operation Push next, right here on WVON 1690. All right, go to ilbcc.org since we still on. Thank you. Become a member. We love it.
Get ready to wake up to the pulse of progress as we amplify voices, break barriers, and illuminate the path towards a more inclusive tomorrow. Follow us across the socials at The Wake Up Show Chicago.
All right, LaDonna, we're good?
Subscribe and share. It's The Wake Up Show every Saturday morning at 9, where change begins with every sunrise.
Welcome to The Wake Up Show Chicago.
That's the end?
The talk of Chicago is 1690 WVON, Berwyn, Chicago.
WVON.